Welcome back to Ctrl+Alt+Biases. Last time, we dove into the world of confirmation bias. Today, we're exploring another common cognitive bias that can wreak havoc on our coding decisions, anchoring bias. So imagine you're trying to estimate the cost of a new software project. So you start by considering a rough estimate based on previous projects. So this initial estimate or anchor can significantly influence your final decision. So even if it is not entirely accurate. So let's see how this plays out in a real life coding scenario. So let's say that you are tasked with optimizing a slow running algorithm. So you start by looking at the code and immediately you notice a nested loop. So you look excited and you think, that must be the bottleneck. So you spend hours refactoring the loop, but only to find out at the end that the performance improvement is minimal. And current bias here can lead us to overestimate the impact of the first solution we come up with, hindering our ability to explore alternative approaches. So, in this case, focusing on the nested loop as the primary culprit prevented us from considering other potential optimizations. So, now, how can we avoid falling into the trap of anchoring bias? Here are some tips. Well, the first one, challenge your initial assumptions. Don't get too attached to the first solution that comes to mind. Actively seek out alternative explanations and see if maybe you can explore different approaches. For example, if you suspect a particular algorithm is the bottleneck, try profiling the code to identify the actual performance hotspots. A second point that you can try out is to consider multiple perspectives. Involve colleagues or outside experts in your decision making process. Diverse viewpoints can help you identify potential biases and consider alternative solutions. For instance, a fresh pair of eyes might notice optimizations that you've overlooked. And a third point that can also help in overcoming this bias is to use data driven decision making. Whenever possible, rely on data and metrics to inform your decisions. So, this can help you avoid relying too heavily on intuition or initial estimates. For example, use profiling tools to measure the actual performance impact of different optimizations. But remember, anchoring bias can be subtle and insidious. So it is easy to get fixated on the first solution that comes to mind, especially when we are under pressure to deliver results. But by being aware of these bias and by implementing these strategies, we can make more informed and objective decisions in our coding projects. So now let's explore another example and see how anchoring bias again can play out in a real life scenario. So imagine you are designing a new feature for a web application. So based on previous projects, so you estimate that it will take 2 weeks to complete. However, as you start working on the feature, what do you notice? Well, you realize that it's more complex than initially anticipated. So instead of adjusting your estimate based on the new information, you might be tempted to stick with the original timeline due to anchoring bias. So this can lead to unrealistic expectations and increased stress. So to avoid this, it is important to be flexible and adjust your estimates as needed. Regularly review your progress and make adjustments to your timeline based on the actual work required. Well, in conclusion, what can we say? Well, incurring bias can have a significant impact on our coding decisions. By understanding this bias and implementing strategies to mitigate its effects, we can make more informed and objective choices, leading to better software outcomes. That's all that I got for today. Thanks for joining me. And if you got an experience with incurring bias in coding, share it in the comments on social media. I'll be really happy to hear your experiences with this bias. Until next time, happy coding and don't be afraid to question your assumptions.